Why is it that you can solve problems other people find difficult, yet still feel completely out of your depth in a group discussion? You can look at a complex problem, break it into parts, and work out what makes sense. You can often see patterns and solutions faster than the people around you. But put that same person into a group conversation and everything can start to feel messy. People interrupt each other, the topic changes quickly. There are hidden meanings, unspoken rules, and pressure to respond on the spot. And suddenly, the person who is good at the hard thing can feel strangely bad at the thing that is supposed to be easy. If that feels familiar, there is a reason for it. It is not random, and it does not mean there is something wrong with you. The confusing part is that group discussions are often treated like the easy part. People act as if chatting in a group should come naturally, while complex problem solving is supposed to be the hard thing. So when you are good at one but struggle with the other, it is easy to start thinking the problem must be you. That is what makes this so frustrating. You know you are capable. You know you are not stupid. You may even be the person people rely on when something needs to be figured out properly. But then you get into a room with several people talking, and suddenly you cannot find your place in it. You might know what you want to say, but the moment passes, or you say it badly, or someone cuts across you, or by the time there is space to speak, the conversation has already moved on. So now you are left with a strange and painful question. How can you handle things that are genuinely difficult, yet still struggle with something other people treat as basic? That is the part that can really mess with your head, because it does not just feel difficult, it feels like it should not be difficult for someone like you. The first mistake people make is to assume this means you are bad with people, bad at communication, or somehow missing something basic that everyone else seems to have. Some people even start telling themselves that they must be broken in some way, because it makes no sense to be strong in one area and so weak in another. But that explanation falls apart the moment you look at the full picture. A person who can think clearly, solve hard problems, notice patterns, and work things out is not lacking intelligence. And they are not failing because they are lazy, careless, or not trying hard enough. In many cases, they are trying harder than everyone else just to keep up with a type of situation that does not suit the way their mind works best. So this is not a simple case of being capable in one area and incapable in another. It is not that you can do hard things, but somehow cannot manage easy ones. The problem is that what looks easy from the outside is often not easy at all when the conditions are wrong for you. The reason this happens is that solving complex problems and taking part in group discussions are not the same kind of task at all. On the surface, one looks hard and the other looks easy, but underneath, they ask your mind to work in completely different ways. When you are solving a complex problem, you usually have something solid to work with. There is a problem in front of you. You can take your time, look at the parts, test ideas, and follow the logic. Even when the problem is difficult, it often has some kind of structure. You can slow it down and think it through. A group discussion is different. It moves fast. Several things are happening at once. You are not just listening to words, you are also trying to keep up with tone, timing, changes in topic, who agrees with who, when to speak, how long to speak for, and whether people are reacting well or badly to what is being said. It is much less clear, much less steady, and much harder to slow down. So the real issue is not that you are good at difficult things but bad at easy things. The real issue is that you think well in one kind of environment and much less easily in another. Once you see that, the contradiction starts to make a lot more sense. When you are solving a complex problem, the job is usually clear. You know what you are trying to work out. The pieces stay still long enough for you to look at them properly. You can notice patterns, compare options, test ideas, and follow things through step by step. Even if the problem is hard, it often stays in one place long enough for your mind to get hold of it. Group discussions are almost the opposite. The target keeps moving. One person starts talking, then another jumps in, then the subject shifts, then someone reacts to the tone instead of the words, then the whole thing drifts off in a new direction. While that is happening, you are expected to listen, understand, judge the mood, work out when to speak, and respond quickly enough to stay part of the conversation. That means the difficulty is not really about intelligence. It is about the kind of conditions you are being asked to think in. One setting gives you time, structure, and space to follow the thread. The other throws speed, noise, mixed signals, and pressure at you all at once. So it is not strange at all that the same person can look highly capable in one setting and completely thrown off in the other. And then there is another layer on top of all this. Group discussions are not just fast and messy, they can also stir things up in you. You might feel rushed, talked over, misunderstood, ignored, judged, or like you have to defend your point before you have even had time to finish it. Once that happens, it gets even harder to think clearly. This is where the problem gets deeper. It is not only that group discussions are a poor match for the way you think best, it is also that they can trigger a kind of internal alarm. And once that alarm is active, more of your energy goes into protecting yourself and less goes into following the conversation properly. You may still know what you want to say, but it becomes harder to find the words, harder to judge the timing, and harder to stay steady enough to say it well. So, the struggle is not just happening because the discussion is busy. It gets worse when the situation starts to feel unsafe, tense, or emotionally loaded. That is why some people can seem calm and capable one moment, then completely lose their footing the moment the social pressure rises. Now, this is where some people start to worry. If the problem is emotional pressure and overload in these situations, does that mean calming that down will also take away the strengths? Will you lose your sharpness, your depth, or your ability to see what others miss? No. In most cases, it is the opposite. The emotional charge is not the source of your ability. It is the interference sitting on top of it. It adds pressure, noise, self-protection, and mental clutter. So, when that charge starts to reduce, you do not become duller. You usually become clearer. You can still think deeply, still see patterns, and still solve difficult problems, but now with less strain and less internal friction. In fact, many people find that as the emotional charge comes down, their strengths become easier to use in more situations. They do not lose their edge. They stop wasting so much energy trying to protect themselves while they think. And sometimes, abilities that were partly buried under stress start to come through more strongly than before. Once you see this, the first paradox starts to clear up. You are not dealing with a mystery anymore. You are dealing with a mismatch. You think, well, when there is structure, time, and something solid to work with. You struggle more when things get fast, noisy, and socially loaded, especially when the situation starts to trigger that internal alarm. But that leads straight into a deeper question. If you can understand this so clearly, why does that understanding still not stop the reaction? Why can you know exactly what is happening, see the pattern, and still find yourself getting thrown off in the moment? That is the next paradox, and it matters because understanding an emotional reaction and changing that reaction are not the same thing. If you want a clear explanation of why that happens, you can find a link in the description below to a video on why understanding emotional reactions does not automatically give you a way to change them. I'd be curious what your version of this is. What are you brilliant at, but strangely hopeless at when other people are involved? Put it in the comments. A lot of the best paradoxes are hiding in plain sight, and your version might be the one that helps someone else make sense of their own. And if you want to investigate another contradiction first, there is one right up here for you.